Hey folks, I will be doing a scope mounting tutorial using this kit right here. This is the deluxe scope mounting kit. Now, I am going to do a review of this kit in short order today to kind of go over what all is in here. I'm not going to include that as part of the tutorial, and that might be posted before you see this tutorial. I haven't decided which order I'm going to post it in, but if it's not up now, keep a lookout for it. Weaver Grand Slam scope. This one here is 2 to 8 by 36. Here are the mounts, and interestingly enough, they just redesigned these mounts also so they kind of match the futuristic look of the scope. It's been kind of rounded off on it. So the first thing we're going to do is mount the bottom portion. You want to make sure that you give yourself ample room to move this around to get the eye relief that you want. You don't want it too close together because it'll hit this. You don't want it too far apart because it's beveled and you need the thin portion of the scope. So I like to center it. This here might be just a little bit close. I'm going to move this out one space. There we go. On this Picatinny rail slot, when I mount my optics, I like to have the mount pushed forward in that slot, because when your rifle recoils, it of course jerks back. If this is pressed up against the forward edge of the slot, it's going to eliminate any potential moving. Not that it's going to move anyway, but you know, something I really like about these mounts right here is that it only takes one tool. A lot of these, you have one separate size for this, and then you have another separate size for the screws that go on the top, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. So it's kind of nice. Another thing that does by pushing it all the way forward is it ensures that this is at a perfect 90-degree angle from the rifle. It's exactly perpendicular. If you don't do that, you might actually have just a slight bit of cant in there, but pushing it forward and making sure the whole thing is forward will eliminate that. Now, I use my Wheeler Engineering scope mounting kit whenever I mount a scope, no matter on what rifle it's on. One of the things, and I just kind of want to show you here, if this wasn't a Picatinny rail, if this was a standard conventional bolt action where there's a space here and not a continuous rail, you have to make sure that your rings are aligned. And to do that, first off, I'm not going to do it because it's an extra step that I don't need right now, but you would secure these right here, not real tight, but tight enough, and you want to make sure that the tips touch just perfectly. Now, since this is Picatinny rail, it lines up automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. That's one step that's eliminated. The next thing that you want to do is lap your rings. To do that, I'm going to put a little bit of lapping compound in the ring. It really doesn't take much. Then you want to make sure you get it in the top ring also. So then you want to screw this in here, the handle. You want the rings to be tight enough that they have a good grip on it, but you don't want it too tight that you can't move it. Because if you get it too tight, you're not going to be able to move it at all. Most likely you're going to just barely get it snug. I didn't have it quite snug enough. There you go. That's better. And you're going to want to take these rings off here and wipe these out. The next thing I want to do to get the reticles adjusted and even and all that requires quite a bit of work, and I don't want to get done with that and then realize my eye relief is off. So I'm going to go ahead and set my eye relief next. The reason, these are standard scope mounts. These are not canted forward or anything like that. So it can be a little tricky because I'm a nose to charging handle shooter. That's how I was trained. That's how I like to shoot. So I'm going to have to mount this pretty far forward. So in order to get my proper eye relief, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put these scope rings on. I just put 2 screws in each one. You don't have to use 4, and you don't have to crank them down real tight either. Not necessary at this point. Now this is something I'm going to have to shoulder the rifle to do. So this is going to be an off-camera type of thing. Now I have my good eye relief, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten this and secure it in place. And like I said before, I like to push it forward in the Picatinny slot and snug it down pretty tight. Alright, next step. Go ahead and remove the rings. Now if you want to really make sure that you get this so that it doesn't move, put a little bit of Loctite on here. Doesn't take much. A few drops. And then I'll also put a drop on each screw. Once again, it doesn't take much, just a drop. I'm not going to tighten it hardly at all. I'm just going to make it just barely snug because at this point I have not leveled the reticle yet. Alright, so now it's mounted and I'm going to go ahead and finish my reticle leveling. And I've showed you this before, I've done this video. I have this Wheeler reticle level. I'm not going to do it on camera because I've done it before, and you can reference my previous video if you want to see how to do it. And now that your reticle is level, the final step, you want to torque it down. You want to check with your manufacturer to find out what you want to torque it to. Now for me, this is the most frustrating part because I've had my reticles level and I've tightened them pretty snug, and then for some reason when I torque it down and go to check, it'll be off, and that's kind of frustrating. Perfect. And my reticle level is good. Perfect. Now I'm going to take my rifle and just do a double check and make sure that when I put it up, the reticle looks level and it's got a good eye relief, and it does. Perfect. Perfect. So, one final step before I go to the rifle range and sight it in, I'm going to bore sight it. And I've also done this, so I'm not gonna show you how I do this again. You can go ahead and go check out my previous video on bore sighting. So at this point, I'm pretty much done with mounting the scope. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. Semper Fi.